What is up, you degenerates, and welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast. It's the best day of the week. We're talking Mondays, UFC 268. We are coming off of UFC 267, which was a wild night. Tons of favorites cashing, though. Not the best showing for dog hunters like myself. It was a chalky night. But this next card coming up is a little bit more wild. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. There's a little aspect of dumpster diving, even though it's a big pay-per-view card. The main portion of UFC 268 is a monstrous, epic pay-per-view. The undercard of UFC 268 is basically a Wednesday night fight session. It's got a lot of low-level fights and some names on there that should make for a fun time. How is everybody doing in the chat this evening? Grateful Dude, Eric Black, Joseph Nessenbaum, Ryan Grant with the Always t-shirt. We've got Levi White Bull shouting out the Fireball and Popcorn. Bon Kui, you're about to find out, my friend. I am welcoming none other than the man himself, Lucrative MMA, to the show tonight, helping us break down this epic card. James, man, how you doing tonight? You're on mute, buddy.
Very unprofessional of me. Sorry about that, fellas. Yeah, I'm real good, Clint, man. Happy to be here. Hopefully we can break down some winners. Last week was a pretty solid event. A lot of favorites won. I'm seeing that a lot of favorites are probably going to win this week as well. But yeah, man, happy to break it down.
Looking forward to it, man. Last time you were on the show, definitely gave the people some good info. For those of you who weren't here for the first time, that my guy James was on the podcast. He's one of the sharpest guys on MMA Twitter today. Very successful MMA betting. Much, much smarter and more successful at betting than me. I'm the fun one. I'm the entertainment here. So glad to have him back for this awesome card. I do want to have a little bit of a confession for everybody on the show. James, you as well, man, because I have to apologize first and foremost. Live shows, shit happens. And what we've got going on tonight is, for some reason, my laptop cord is dying. So we're on a clock. I never, ever try to rush the show or anything like that. But tonight, I have to hustle a little bit on this podcast because Lucrative might be solo at the end of the show if my laptop literally shuts off on me for the final fight or two. So I apologize, chat. We're going to be just a little bit less interactive. I'm not going to recap last week's event. We're going to dive straight into the fights coming up this week so we can make sure we touch on all of them to get the party started here. So again, apologies. Let's rock. Irregardless, thank you very much for the donation, my friend. We always appreciate it. Let's get this thing going here. First fight of the night, we've got CJ Varga taking on Ode Osbourne. And some of you may know that I've got a little bit of a connection with Ode Osbourne. I like the guy for some reason. These low-level, mid-tier fighters that have big knockout power, I like them. CJ comes to us, Dana White Contender Series Week 2. He came in as a big plus 180 underdog and stole the show. Golden Gloves runner-up back in 2000. He's got nice kicks. He's explosive, big power clinch knees. And really, he just ran through his guy on the Contender Series. Ode Osbourne, he is big now that he's down at 125 pounds. He's got a snapping jab. He's got power in his hands, good feints. He showed a new level, in my opinion, in his last fight against Manal Cape. He was looking excellent in that fight until he got lit up by that knee. And then I will go ahead and say it again. I felt that stoppage was a little bit early, James. I felt like the knee landed flush, but he was fully there. Now, this is one of those situations where, don't get me wrong, he could have been ground and pounded out in about 5 seconds. But he wasn't out yet. So I feel like they should have given him the chance at least to stick around in that fight. Ode's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. And I feel like this is Contender Series in full effect. I think CJ is dangerous. He's always going to be dangerous. He's always going to be live for that early finish. But I kind of lean with the minus 160 favorite here on Ode Osbourne early. James, how do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, exactly the same as you, really, man. I think Ode Osbourne should win this fight. He is the deserved favorite. His striking is a lot cleaner. You know, there's a lot more technique behind his striking. He's a lot crisper with his strikes. He has a lot more power. I think he's going to be lighting up CJ Vergara early. I really do. I don't think CJ Vergara is going to have an answer in that first round. Honestly, the only way I see CJ winning this fight is if he's able to drag it late. You know, Ode Osbourne doesn't have a good record of going late. In fact, I think his fights have only got out of the first round like twice in his entire career. And I believe he won a decision, which was a split decision, which I wasn't able to find film on. And he lost the decision as well. So, you know, if his fights get out of that first round, he doesn't have a very good track record, but most of his fights finish in the first round because he's able to put his opponent out. And honestly, I think the first round knockout is live for Ode here. I can't say that I assume his cardio to be bad if it does get out of that first round. I haven't seen the fights where it's gone to decision, so I can't just say he's going to have bad cardio automatically. He's looked fine to me when the fights have gone late in that first round. You know, Manel Cape fight, it finished with about 10 seconds to go in the first round. He looked completely fine to me, didn't look gassed at all. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on the cardio just because he hasn't gone into the late rounds, you know, often. I'm not going to say it's instantly terrible. So, yeah, I think Ode Osbourne, very live to put him out early. And honestly, I think he could even win a decision if it goes there. The only worry is if he does have bad cardio, which is, you know, possible, then I do think CJ Vergara could take him out late because Vergara is the type of fighter who walks forward, puts pressure on his opponent. He's a dog at the end of the day. You know, we've seen that on the regional scene. He will come forward and eat shots. I don't think it's a good style to have against Ode Osbourne in one sense because you're going to get hurt a lot. But at the same time, if it does go late, then, you know, the odds start tipping in the favor of Vergara. So I'll take Ode Osbourne for the win here.
I couldn't agree more, man. And I think Ode Osbourne showed, like I said, a bit of a level up in his last fight. His counter-striking was on point. He looked like he was being much more patient. And if you're fighting that kind of patient style, you're not going to run out of gas as much. And then if you've got a wild man coming at your face the way that CJ Vergara is going to come in and do, I think he should be able to pick him off with a big counter punch or something like that. Welcome to the UFC, kid. Glad we agree on the first fight of the night. Again, if you're just joining us, we got 101 live viewers. Apologies, everybody. We got to go a little quicker tonight than normal because my laptop is literally going to die. Next up, we've got Melsik, Baghdasaryan coming back, a very hyped prospect, welcoming Bruno Souza. Souza's coming in, I believe, a short notice fill-in for TJ Laramie. He's the LFA champion, and he is the, I guess, protege of Lyoto Machida. And he strikes exactly like Lyoto Machida. Like, if you go back and you watch some fight tape of Machida, this guy mimics him almost identically. He's got that sideways stance, karate style, stands right in front of his opponents. He does like to, side-to-side footwork, duck and move, cut an angle, come back, explode with a big shot. It's kind of just one big power shot at a time looking for the finish. Melsik Baghdasaryan, absolute killer. This guy has nasty knockout power, likes to walk forward, force a bit of a technical brawl. He does mix his punches and his kicks real well. He likes to attack the body. I love everything that I've seen from Melsik, and I think there may come a day that we fade this kid when you get a durable, grindy style grappler that's going to come in and face off with him. But I don't think that's this week. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, and against a short notice fill-in who's going to be a guy more than willing to engage in the striking. I mean, maybe he eats a big counter bomb like Lyoto Machida used to do to everybody, but I'm going to kind of side with Melsik for this one. Not a great read on it, though, personally, in this case. James, do you have anything on this fight?
Yeah, I think Melsik's going to put a beating on Bruno, to be honest, Bruno Souza early. Obviously, Melsik, he's got a questionable gas tank, and I don't want to say questionable, but he did slow down in that Contender Series fight, especially in the second round. But honestly, he did well to come back in that third round. You know, he won the third round in that Contender Series fight, and that showed a lot to me because he hadn't been past the 32-second mark in his entire professional career before that Contender Series fight. Then he ended up going 15 hard minutes with an opponent who didn't give up, solid opponent, 4-1. So that showed me a lot, you know. And then in the Colin Anglin fight, again, he defended some takedowns. He got taken down once, but he got back to his feet. So to be honest, Melsik showing me everything that he has to show me. You know, we already know his striking is very high level. I think there's not many people in that division that are going to compete with his striking. He's got a very fast, straight left hand, even straight right hand, very heavy head kicks. You know, he knocked out Colin Anglin with a head kick. So I think he's going to be touching up Bruno Souza as much as he wants. The only way I see Souza winning the fight is if he's able to just out-experience him, out-veteran him, out-MMA him, maybe mix in the takedowns, pressure him, clinch game up against the cage. But every time someone's tried to do that to Melsik, he has passed the test. I do think this is the hardest fight of Melsik's career because I think Bruno Souza is a good fighter. You know, he's fought some solid guys in LFA. He's got wins over current UFC fighters like Kamala Kirk. He also has other few solid wins in there. So I think he's a good fighter. It was only a matter of time before he got signed by the UFC. But just stylistically, I don't see him causing much problems for Melsik Baghdasaryan unless, as I said, he can wear him out in the clinch, take him down. So, yeah, I'm going to side with Melsik here. I think he should be a reasonable size favorite. Like where it is now, I agree with it. And I think he could get a knockout in this fight early. And I think he could also win a decision.
Okay. We're going batting 100 so far on the agreements here. It looks like Melsik is currently a minus 300 favorite. The comeback on the new kid, plus 240, plus 225 or so. And anytime you got these big power punchers, it's dangerous to do parlays. But I do agree that I think Melsik is probably the side here. And honestly, man, I just think his activity, I don't know that he's going to get worn out in the clinch. I would be worried about him getting worn out with takedowns, having to get back up, that kind of thing, scrambles all the time. But if we're talking leaning against the cage, if we're talking clinch fighting, Melsik can play there. So I think at minus 300, it's not a bad price. And like my boy Billy in the chat said, he owes me a round 1 KO. I'd be looking at the KO prop for Melsik for sure. That seems to be how he gets it done against almost anybody. Next fight up, another short notice replacement. We got Dustin Jacoby taking on John Allan. Now, John Allan, somebody you may remember, he's one of these fighters, almost like a measuring stick type of fighter. Like he's not had a very good run so far in the UFC. He was brought in to make Roman Dolidze look good. He was the "you want me to submit him" guy. So everyone basically just expected him to get tapped out super fast. I think 4 out of his 6 losses are by submission, I believe. And he was brought in to fight Alexa Kamer. Alexa Kamer was a slight favorite. He was down to about minus 120 before the fight fell out. And I was just going to come on here and tell everybody, don't bet chalk on Alexa Kamer. I know it sounds like it should be an easy thing to do. I know he, looks good on the highlight reel. Just don't do it. So I'm glad we don't have to worry about that, because now with Dustin Jacoby coming in here, you're going to have to lay big chalk on Dustin Jacoby with how good this guy has looked. I haven't run the tape on him yet, but we remember what he's done recently. Since he's returned to the UFC, he is undefeated. He's got a great gas tank. He pressure cooks people on the feet. But John Allan is a very durable fighter. That's the thing. He loses by submission or by decision. People have not been able to knock him out. I don't know that I want to take a dog shot with Allan against Jacoby. In fact, I know for a fact I definitely don't want to do that. I was tempted to take Allan against his previous opponent, but not against Jacoby. Honestly, what I'd be looking at here is playing an over, just relying on the durability of this kid to stay in the fight and try to, get me a 1.5 or a 2.5. I'm not sure where they're going to line it yet. This fight just got put together. So kind of tough for us to break it down because I don't think we have a whole lot of betting numbers or anything out there to look at. James, do you have a lean on this fight, or is there something you're kind of looking for when the lines do drop on it?
Yeah, so this fight got made less than 24 hours ago, right? Alexa Kamer pulled out. I'm not sure why. So I haven't gone super deep into Jacoby tape. In fact, I haven't watched none of his fights, but I'm very well aware of Jacoby. I was heavy on him in his last fight against Darren Stewart. 3 units, I think I had at minus 175. Obviously, washed him there, was able to get the first or second round stoppage. I think Jacoby's going to piece apart John Allan, to be honest. John Allan maybe has some grappling upside. BJJ credentials better than Dustin Jacoby, the kickboxer, but Jacoby's shown decent takedown defense and even decent get-up abilities. So, I don't really see too much of a path to victory for John Allan. But as you said, very tough guy. And Jacoby, he got a knockout in his last fight, but I don't think he's this crazy knockout artist, to be honest. Obviously, he's a very good kickboxer. He fought in Glory, actually fought Alex Pereira, who's on later in the card. He obviously lost there because Pereira was the Glory champ at the time. But yeah, I think that John Allan probably is going to survive. And I would be looking to play an over as well. Jacoby via decision is even a decent play. But yeah, I will go and watch some more tape of Dustin Jacoby because when this fight got made about 12 hours ago, as I said, I haven't gone in to watch the tape yet. But I'm going to be picking Jacoby for the win. I don't see too many path to victories for his opponent here, and decision over is not a bad play either, depending on the line, which I think the line will be fair. I don't think they're going to come out with a crazy chalk number over, light heavyweight fight. So, I'd be looking at that if I was you.
Glad we agree on that one, man. Just battery update. I'm at 69%, so I'm going to pip in little updates here and there so we know how quick we got to move. We can save a little bit of time on this one, James. Gian Villante taking on Chris Barnett. I mean, two guys that really shouldn't be in the UFC. Certified bum fight. Gian Villante, he's 1-4 in his last 5. I have no clue how he's even still on the UFC roster. I mean, his last win in the UFC was a split decision over Ed Short Fuse Herman. Like, he should have been cut forever ago. He was decent pretty much everywhere, not great anywhere. His opponent, Chris Barnett, he's coming in here. He made a sacrificial debut against Ben Rothwell, got choked out in the second round. He came in, rolled off the couch, and when I say that, I mean really rolled off the couch. Like, this guy has never looked in worse shape in his life. Looks like he's actually taking this one seriously. This time, though, looking at his Instagram, he's doing a lot of cardio. He's doing a lot of explosive work. This guy is underratedly athletic for how big he is. Line is basically a pick'em. Honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I kind of want to bet Chris Barnett because I just think Gian Villante is showing up for a paycheck and has been for the last 5 years. I think Barnett finally has made it to the UFC, and he's going to be the one out there who's actually hungry to get a win and get a career started at this stage. Bad fight. You probably shouldn't bet it, but I might find my way to backing Chris Barnett. Do you have anything on this one?
First of all, the disrespect that you're showing to this fight. This is the people's main event of the evening. You know, we got to spend some time on this one. No, but in all seriousness, it is a bit of a low-level fight, heavyweight fight. I think Gian Villante should win this fight, honestly. Okay. I think Chris Barnett is not UFC level. I don't think he's ever been UFC level. If you go back to his regional scene, the guy's having split decisions with 4-1, 4-2 fighters, 3-5 fighters, whatever. Goes the distance. Shout out to Jeek there. I don't mind goes the distance. As soon as I saw this fight, as soon as I saw the fight announced, I wrote down in my notebook or on my notes on my phone, goes the distance, right? Just so when I do tape for the fight, and this was like a week and a half in advance or week in advance, when I do tape, I did, and it did confirm that, goes the distance, probably not a bad play. I'm not sure the odds. Maybe you can bring them up now as I'm speaking, but goes to decision, probably be about pick 'em -150, I would assume. I haven't checked.
You know what? We're all just going to have to run to the nearest book possible if you have the line, because over 1.5 is -155. Fight goes the distance, James, is +155. People are betting that this fight is going to get finished. And it looks like money is actually coming in on the fight doesn't go the distance, which baffles me. So maybe don't run. Maybe everybody sit tight because the market appears to think this fight's going to finish. And I completely disagree.
All right. Yeah, so the only thing I would say is that I think Gian Villante can finish Chris Barnett. Barnett doesn't have good cardio. We've seen that in a lot of his fights. He slows down dramatically. I don't think Barnett is able to finish Gian Villante. I'd be very surprised if Barnett gets a finish over Villante. Even in Villante's losses, against Jake Collier, a few of the other fighters he fought, Maurice Green. He was winning that Maurice Green fight, to be honest, until he got choked out in the last round. He's still durable, He took a lot of punishment in that Jake Collier fight. And Jake Collier is a decent fighter. So my prediction for the fight, I think Gian Villante should be, one -150 favorite or something. No supreme confidence in Gian Villante. You can't be confident in Gian Villante in 2021. But I do think this is a very winnable fight for him. And because we've seen Barnett slow down over his career, there is always that worry that Gian Villante is pouring it on late and he could get the finish. But I lean Gian Villante to win. I also lean Gian Villante to win via decision. I think that over 1.5 is a great bet. Goes to decision, gets a little bit hairier because, as I said, he could slow down. But I'm pretty confident Gian Villante should be at least a -150, -175 favorite. And then I'm also very confident that over 1.5 should be like a -233 instead of a -150. So I'm giving you some decent bets there. Let's hope they cash. But I don't think Chris Barnett is UFC level. Neither is Gian Villante at this point, but I think he's more than Chris Barnett. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. I can't imagine a world where I'm betting on Gian Villante, and I'm a complete degenerate, though. So I will join you on that over. I really think that is the spot, because if this thing hits the third round, we've seen Gian Villante suck in wind after about the first minute in the second round. He ain't finishing anybody in that third round. So I think if it gets over 1.5, it's probably going the distance. Next fight coming up here. Jordan Williams taking on Ian Garry. And I do wish we had a little bit more time to spend on this one because Garry is a hot prospect coming in here to the UFC. 7-0, undefeated. This is one of your classic build the name type of spots, man. The UFC is high on Ian Garry, coming over from Cage Warriors, undefeated prospect, training at Sanford MMA, 23 years old, looks like a skinny Ian Heinisch. I mean, like, he's got the whole thing going for him. But he's taking on Jordan Williams, a guy that's had a bad run lately, basically just got knocked out by Mickey Gall. I know he got tapped, but he got, knocked to the ground first. This guy is the kid with diabetes that came off the Contender Series. You really want to see the kid win facing that kind of adversity. He's a very aggressive striker. Jordan Williams is fun to watch. He crowds you, keeps a high pace, tries to pressure you up against the fence. He's durable as hell. That's the big thing. He does tend to gas out in like the second and third round because of the pace that he keeps. Averages 5.97 significant strikes per minute, absorbing 5.65. So literally takes one to give one and just kind of relies on his power being better. So far, hasn't worked out for him in the UFC. Ian, much more smooth customer. Slick footwork, rapid fire jab, moves well, nice head movement, very elusive striking. I think he's going to pick Jordan Williams apart, and I think he's more than deserving of this minus 355, minus 375 price tag that he's sitting at. And honestly, my tinfoil capped hot take for this one, James, is that the kid is slick on the ground as well. I think it looks a lot like the last fight where it's kind of a club and sub situation. Williams is too tough to actually go out on his shield, so I think he probably hurts him and wraps up that neck very similarly to what Gall did. How do you feel about this next fight?
Yeah, so Ian Garry coming out of the UK. He's from Ireland. Obviously, I have a little bit more of a love for the fighters coming out from the same region as me, the UK. So I've known about Ian Garry for a long time. Of course, man. People look down on that these days, but it's nothing wrong with that. So I love my English fighters, love my UK fighters. And I've known about Ian Garry for a long time, coming up in the Cage Warriors scene, became Cage Warriors champion, welterweight champion last time out against Jack Grant. And it's funny you say that he's a decent submission artist, or you think you have a sneaky suspicion that he's good at BJJ as well. Because in that Jack Grant fight, there was a lot of submission attempts from Grant. There was a lot of grappling. And Jack Grant is a veteran of the UK scene. And he's got a lot of submissions on his record. He's very sneaky with his submissions. And Ian Garry dealt with every single position he was ever put in there. And even
very impressed with the defense in that fight.
Definitely. And the kid's 23 years old, so I really do think the sky's the limit for him. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to pick apart Jordan Williams. Just talking about this fight here, I think he's going to pick him apart. I think for the parlay guys, I think he's safe for parlays. There is still questions out on him, but I think, his potential, his ceiling is very high. So I want the UFC to take their time with him, build him up. He's only 23 years old. They don't need to rush him. I don't think he's ready to step in at the high level, top 10, top 5 yet. But I do think he can get there if, within another couple years. So I just want to say quick shout out to Michael Casey on Twitter. I don't know if you know him, Clint, but he's Ian Garry's biggest fan. So he'll probably be laughing at me saying that now. He's from Ireland as well. But yeah, I think Ian Garry is safe for parlays, as I said, for the parlay guys. And yeah, I think he's going to pick apart Jordan Williams here.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we agree on that one. This is one of those spots, man, where it's hard to disagree on these giant chalky fighters. You know what I mean? It's not all that entertaining for us to say the minus 375 is going to win, but hey, definitely is what it is, right? So I think he gets it done. I think he styles on him, if I'm being honest. So let's move this bad boy right along. For anybody keeping track at home, we are all the way down to 60% on the battery life. So moving along, I want to have some time for the final 3 fights or so to talk about. Edmen Shahbazyan taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Now, this is going to be, I think, the great divide on Twitter. This one is getting a lot of attention on both sides. We've seen Edmen Shahbazyan come in here. He's supposed to be the next big thing. He's supposed to be, the hype project. He's supposed to run through the champion. He's got that slick boxing, fast hands, big knockout power. But we've found the chink in his armor. He's been exposed. He can't grapple. He doesn't have a great gas tank. And people have been able to take advantage of that towards the upper level. So he got a little bit of a step down. But honestly, it's not even that much of a step down because Nassourdine Imavov just threw his hat in the contenders ring by knocking out a very tough, very durable Ian the Hurricane Heinisch, something not a lot of people have been able to do. Nassourdine Imavov showed a new level of striking in his last fight. He was able to flow effortlessly between the grappling and the striking, mixes in the takedowns. He's got nasty elbows in tight, fights long, stiff jab. I mean, he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And I'll be honest with you, James, I first looked at this and just went, oh, I'm going to bet on Edmen Shahbazyan. And I'm seeing a lot of Shahbazyan love online. I'm seeing a lot of people back the dog here. Him finally to get back on track after stepping down a little bit in competition against somebody who's a little bit less proven. And then once I dug into the tape and I went back and I rewatched what Imavov has been able to do in his career, I don't think I can bet Edmen Shahbazyan in this spot. I think Imavov is a rightful favorite, and I think especially once you mix in his advantage in the grappling, he's just going to be able to continue to mix things up on Edmen Shahbazyan. This is a close fight. It's a tight fight. I know Shahbazyan can knock anybody out. He can knock anybody out early. But I don't think he's going to get to Imavov early, and if he doesn't, I do think Imavov just kind of chips away at him and takes over the course of a 15-minute fight. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, it's just so hard to get behind Shahbazyan, these days, because it's there for everybody to see. The dude is a gasser. He gasses in every single fight that gets out of the first round. So if you're able to withstand that first round, you're probably going to be fine. Even the only fight in his career that's got out of the first round and he's won, which was against Darren Stewart. It was a split decision win. And in that third round, Darren Stewart was piling on heavy. He could have got the stoppage in that fight. There was multiple times where he was pounding away at his head and Edmen Shahbazyan wasn't moving. The referee told him to start moving. Now, it just so happens that Darren Stewart could not stuff Edmen's takedowns, and Edmen was able to just basically hang on for the final bell, and he won a split decision there. But the other two times it's got out of the first round, he was stopped in the third round by Derek Brunson. And the other time was Jack Hermansson, and he almost got stopped in the third round there. So I know you love your round 3 sprinkles. I think this is a prime opportunity for round 3 sprinkle Nassourdine Imavov. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not tempted on the money line because I do think that Edmen Shahbazyan can either stay competitive or win the striking. I think it's pretty similar there. And I also think Shahbazyan can get takedowns on Imavov here and stall time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shahbazyan goes out there and wins. But on the other side, I can also see Imavov getting takedowns on Shahbazyan and doing the same thing that way. And the only difference, really, the big difference in this fight, from what I can see, it's not the takedowns, not the grappling, it's the cardio. It's that Imavov pushes a pace and he will keep going and Edmen will fade. So you can't really be favoring Edmen in this fight just because of that, in my opinion. But I wouldn't be surprised if anyone gets a decision. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a squeaky decision. But I kind of do see Imavov taking over late. So, yeah, not a heavy prediction on either side. I guess I'll go with Imavov to get that third round finish just to keep it fun for the podcast. But, yeah, it's a hard one to break down. But there's a clear advantage for Imavov in the cardio, which is the only clear advantage in the fight, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you, man. And I'm glad you mentioned the round 3 sprinkle because I have sprinkled round 3 with Imavov a couple times. In fact, I sprinkled him on Phil Hawes in round 3 looking for that sweet little finish. So I will definitely be going back to the well there on this one. I kind of agree with you. It is a close, tight fight. And I really think the power and the boxing of Edmen Shahbazyan is really what's keeping this line close because in that first round, he's a handful. So he could win this thing by knockout. That doesn't tell us anything about his cardio or where he's going after that. Now, somebody in the chat did go ahead and throw out, let me see if I can find it here real quick, that Edmen Shahbazyan went to AKA. I don't know that I saw that. James, did you see anything about him switching camps here?
I didn't see it, but I'm not the man to ask, to be honest. I don't keep too many. I let other people tell me that. I haven't heard it myself.
Okay. I'm definitely going to have to do some homework there. I haven't heard anything. I feel like that would make bigger news considering he's coming out of, Rousey's training camp and he's just the protege from there and they just all yell head movement at everybody. So it would be kind of a big deal if he switched camps. That might make a bit of a difference, but until that's confirmed, I'm not going to read too much into it. I'll look into it a little bit after we jump off the show here. Funny that we should mention Phil Hawes. Our next fight up is Phil Hawes taking on none other than Chris Curtis. This was a short notice replacement fight that got set up when Phil Hawes' Duran Win fight dropped out. And now they rebooked it. Like, kind of odd that Phil Hawes turned down the fight the day that it was scheduled for, and then has agreed to it just a matter of weeks later. So very, very questionable here in my opinion. Phil Hawes, once again, as always, is a massive favorite. Minus 375. You're getting all the way up to plus 280 on Chris Curtis in some places here in this spot. Now, Phil Hawes, we all know Megatron. He's got that solid wrestling game. Since he moved over to Sanford MMA, he's looked like an absolute machine. Everybody knows that he's got big explosive power, and everybody knows that I do everything I can to fade this man. I don't know what it is, but I don't like his overall game. And even though he has looked new and improved, even though he has looked like he's, kind of crashed through a new level, I just think he's got a ceiling, and I'm going to keep trying to fade him. I know people hate when I do that because I just end up, throwing piles of money at people trying to bet against people that the world seems to think are good. But I think that Phil Hawes at his core is still Phil Hawes, and I'll be able to take advantage of that at some point. Now, his opponent, Chris Curtis, a lot of people may not know him very well. He came to us from the PFL. He trains with Sean Strickland, and honestly, this guy's got really good hands. He's got slick boxing, a good uppercut, powerful winging hooks, good gas tank. He's durable as hell, too. When he was in the PFL, so he's got only 3 losses since 2016. And all 3 of those losses were to Ray Cooper, who now holds the belt in the PFL, and the other 2 were to Magomed Karamov, who was the previous winner and just got beaten by Ray Cooper for the title again in the PFL. So he only lost to the top 2 guys in the PFL. He kind of belongs... maybe not belongs, but he kind of deserves his shot in the UFC at this stage of his career. I feel like he's done enough to show that he can at least hang here. And when he fought Magomed, he had that man gassing hard in that 3rd round. He literally never goes away, James. That's kind of the calling card for this man, Chris Curtis. I'm going to be honest. He called the round 3 knockout on my guy James Lynch's show. He did an interview with him, and I'm going to sprinkle it, James. I'm going to sprinkle it. He's calling for his own round 3 knockout, knowing that he just needs to survive 3 rounds with Phil Hawes, and he will see Hawes fade at the end of the fight. So if he can stay conscious, if he can stay in this thing and get to that 3rd round, I have no question that he can turn the table on Phil Hawes. Now, can he knock him out at that phase of the fight? I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm honestly a little bit tempted in the dog shot here on Chris Curtis. I know everyone's going to absolutely love hearing that. How do you feel about this one, James? Are you parlaying the favorite? Are you taking the dog shot? Are you steering clear? How are we looking?
Yeah, I'm not parlaying Phil Hawes at minus 400. I don't think I'd ever do that in my career.
Nobody should ever parlay Phil Hawes.
I think, look, he's a decent fighter. He's definitely shown improvements. I can't deny that. But the guy gets hit and hurt in most of his fights that he doesn't win in the 1st round. Honestly, I think he's been hurt in every single fight he hasn't won in the 1st round. I don't think that's I think that's actually a fact. So it's hard for me to get behind Phil Hawes at the price, but at the same time, I don't have a heavy read on Chris Curtis. He's a very meat and potatoes fighter. He doesn't do anything great, but he's got good cardio. He'll walk you down. He's got decent range control. He can be taken down. We've seen that quite a few times. Phil Hawes will go for the takedowns. If Phil Hawes aggressively, offensively wrestles, though, he could possibly gas out. So, look, I don't have a heavy read on this fight. No money lines are really tempting me. I probably will go back and do a little bit more research into Chris Curtis because I didn't go too heavy into tape on him when I was researching this fight. But yeah, man, we'll move on from this one because I don't have, as I said, I don't have a heavy read. But I wouldn't be backing Phil Hawes at minus 400. But there's nothing that I see in Chris Curtis that really makes me want to back him either. I don't think he does anything particularly great, but he is a solid, all-round, well-developed fighter. So you never know. He could pull it out the bag. I don't think it's a bag dog shot at the price, but I'm probably not going to be on him myself.
Okay. Fair enough, man. If you haven't yet, though, make sure you watch those Magomed fights because Ray Cooper has proven, in my opinion, that he is more than UFC caliber. Like, if you threw Ray Cooper in the UFC, I think he'd do just fine. And that's the only guy that has knocked this man out, and it's with his signature punch, which he knocks everybody out with. He just took the belt with it. So I don't really count that much against him for that. And the Magomed fights, he gets taken down for 2 rounds, but he keeps getting back up. Like a Russian grinder in Magomed gets so exhausted in the third round that he's hanging on for dear life against this man. If that's going to be the case, I think that he can turn the table on Phil Hawes, because Phil Hawes gasses every time he does get out of that first round. So you best believe that round 3 sprinkle is coming, and I might even take the plunge on the money line. Next fight up, we have got Al Iaquinta, Raging Al, taking on Bobby King Green, and I have thoughts on this one, man. You guys know I love my Bobby Green. Bobby Green's the guy that I've been back to the well with time and time and time again. I got him as a minus 165 favorite. I've got 3.3 units to win to on Bobby Green here in this spot. Al Iaquinta, we know he trains with Merab, he trains with Aljo. And man, have you seen the meme where it's the three-headed dragon, King Ghidorah from Godzilla? And it's like 2 of them look badass, and then there's like the derpy one that's like
yeah, I've seen that.
That's exactly how I feel about Merab Aljo and Al Iaquinta. Like, you've got 2 title challengers, and then Al sitting there like...
Al was a title challenger as well. Al was a title challenger.
He was, but the time has passed. Al is selling real estate these days. Hasn't fought since 2019, coming off of 2 major surgeries. He's 1-3 in his last 4. Now, those 3 most recent losses were Hooker, Cerrone, and Khabib. So, I mean, not awful competition, obviously, when you're losing to guys like Khabib and Hooker. Cerrone, questionable, but that's when he was on his revenge tour, and we really thought he was coming back for the title. So take that with a bit of a grain of salt. He also, his only competition in 2020 was a grappling match against Mike Perry, which he lost. For being a wrestler and that kind of being his calling card, losing a grappling match to Mike Perry, I have serious questions. I'm honestly not sure where he's good anymore, man. That's kind of my big thing about Al Iaquinta. He hasn't taken anybody down since Joe Lozon in 2015, if that tells you anything. So for the most part, he wants to come in and strike with these men. He's been out of competition. Bobby Green has been very active recently. We just saw him go 15 minutes with Fiziev, where he almost 10-8'd the man in that third round. And I believe if you gave him, Diaz style, if you gave him one more round, I think he would have knocked out Fiziev, but it was a 15-minute fight. Man, Bobby Green is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And if you check out his Instagram, he is motivated for this fight. He's talking all kinds of stuff about greatness. He's talking about not being able to quit. He's talking about changing his mindset and his attitude towards fighting and things of that nature. Like, I love where Bobby Green's head is at right now. It seems like he's coming into this fight with a chip on his shoulder. I think he does what he does, man. He has good takedown defense. He has good submission defense. He has a good get-up game, and he is the volume king. He just cooks people over the course of 15 minutes, and I know he fights close with all of his opponents, and that's kind of the problem with Bobby Green. That's the only reason he's not a 7-unit max bomb bet for me this weekend, is because there's that little question that he makes some egregious mistake and error and sells the fight down the river. But I like Bobby Green a lot here. So, yeah, 3.3 units to win 2 for me, and I may have to go right back to that sprinkle well here, man, because we know how he does in that third round. And with Al Iaquinta having 1 foot out of the game, I know he's been durable throughout the majority of his career, but I also don't know where he is at right now. If Bobby Green's going to finish anybody, it's going to be a guy who hasn't fought for, 2-3 years and is just kind of rolling his way into the UFC for a paycheck at this point.
Yeah, so... Yeah, look, I'm kind of there with you in terms of I think Bobby Green is the side. I was looking to, potentially play Bobby Green, but the guy doesn't, as I said to you on the DMs, the guy can't finish his lunch. So if you're going to bet Bobby Green, bet Bobby Green via decision, because I don't think he's finishing a UFC fighter. I don't think he's finishing Al Iaquinta, who's a tough motherfucker. We've seen him go to decision with Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker was beating the piss out of him. We've seen him go to decision with Khabib. Even Khabib couldn't finish him. The great Khabib took him down multiple times, went for submission attempts. Al is a tough motherfucker, Whether he's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I think Al's going to be a tough motherfucker till the day he dies. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily think that he's going to be easy to finish. And he's fighting someone who just doesn't finish anybody. So, look, if you want to do your round 3 sprinkle, I'm not going to talk you off it. Good luck with that. But I think if you want to play Bobby Green, probably the way to play him, like in all of his fights really, is via decision. You're going to turn a -175 into a much, much better line. I don't know what it is. I would assume +150 or something. So I will say, look, Al can make this fight close because Bobby Green's going to give him the fight that he wants. I think Bobby Green's going to be in boxing range, slip in, which is what Al wants. Al wants you in boxing range. As you said, he doesn't go for much takedowns anymore. He will mix them in. Well, maybe not necessarily mix them in terms of really pursue them. But what he will do is do a little knee tap to get you thinking about the grappling. He will push you up against the cage if the fight gets in close. So he will mix up grappling a little bit. But as you said, he hasn't been credited with a takedown since 2015, so that's something to be aware of. But they're going to be in boxing range, which is what Al likes. So I do think Al's going to catch Bobby Green with some solid shots. He's got a decent overhand left. So I think the fight could play out, fairly close at times. The margins may kind of be slim in some moments of the fight. But I have to favor Bobby Green. He's been way more active. He's definitely got higher hopes for his UFC career now than Al Iaquinta. As you said, he wants to, continue pushing, especially coming off that fight against Rafael Fiziev. I know he clearly lost 2-1 in my opinion, but he clearly won the 3rd round. And, he's going to be thinking that, Fiziev was all busted up after that fight where Bobby Green was kind of fine. After we saw the famous picture of them, but Fiziev's eye was all over the place and Bobby Green was fine. And Fiziev was praising Bobby Green, saying that's the hardest fight I've ever had. All this. So that's going to give Bobby Green confidence. He went against the hype machine in Fiziev, a very good fighter, and he was able to, back and forth fight with him. So I think he's going to be really motivated here. I think he's going to get the win, but I do think it's going to be via decision, and pretty sure I'm going to be on the goes to decision, the over, or Bobby Green via decision, or Al Iaquinta via decision if the price is crazy. As you know, man, in sports betting, it's all about the price. It's not about who we think is going to win, right? We look at the odds, we do the maths, we do our breakdowns, and we decide what prop, what odd, what straight, what parlay, whatever we're going to take. So I'm going to have an in-depth look on all the numbers, and then I'll make my decision. But I do have a solid read in this fight. I think it goes over 2.5. And yeah, I do think Bobby Green probably gets the win.
Okay, we mostly agree, man. I'm glad you mentioned all of that. I wish I had more battery life because I would love to have somebody who's successful as you are backing up the fact that we are betting numbers and not necessarily fighters. And it's okay that once you have value on the other side to take the right shot from time to time, getting value like that. But alas, the battery is dying on me. We have 281 live viewers talking UFC 268 with us tonight. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Smash the like button for me. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you check out my guy Lucrative MMA on Twitter. Give him a follow. Probably the sharpest handicapper that I know when it comes to mixed martial arts. So make sure you give the man a follow. DXJC knows what's up. Gianni would say that we're due for some regression in Bobby Green's finish rate. So the knockout's coming, man. All right. Next fight up, we are talking Andreas Michailidis taking on Alex Pereira. And this is a very, very interesting fight for a lot of different reasons. What we've got is Andreas Michailidis, a guy who so far has not really impressed very much in his UFC run. The plus 210 underdog, welcoming Alex Pereira minus 260 to the UFC. Now, Pereira is a professional kickboxer. You all recognizing that name, but not quite sure where you can put it. He's the guy that knocked out Israel Adesanya. He has not one but 2 wins in kickboxing over the champ Israel Adesanya, one via decision, the second by thunderous KO. Now, this man has power in every single limb. His leg kicks are disgusting. He chips away at people with these hard leg kicks. He's got a nasty head kick that comes out of nowhere, a devastating lead left hook. If you come in aggressive, you're going to catch that boy and you're going to take a canvas nap. Andreas Michailidis is one of these wild men. He crashes the pocket, swinging wildly for the fences, his chin wide open for his opponent to take advantage of. Heavy on his feet, walks his opponents down, and just swings big hooks. That's really all he's got. He throws nothing straight, nothing down the pipe. He does have big, heavy leg kicks, but he winds up on those. He does try to back his opponents up against the cage, and he has some decent wrestling, some decent trip takedowns, but nothing to write home about. What you're going to get in this spot is a lot of people basically wanting to absolutely stay away in this spot because Alex Pereira is 2-1 in mixed martial arts. We don't know about this guy's takedown defense. We don't know about this guy's get-up game. We're not sure if he can hang in an MMA fight. You'll get people backing Andreas Michailidis because he's the wrestler. He'll be able to take him down. Look what happened to Shields over in the PFL just a couple of weeks ago. I understand that angle. I get it, but I think the UFC is smarter at setting up appropriate matchups and getting hyped fighters where they need to be. I think this is Alex Pereira. I think that left-hand knockout lands early and often, and Andreas probably takes a round 1 canvas nap. Alex Pereira has been training at the Teixeira MMA camp, so he's training with the new champion. Damn, that feels good to say. Glover Teixeira. He's learning takedown defense and grappling from none other than Glover, and that's something that I would trust for him to be on point for this kind of a fight. And it's been over a year since his last MMA fight, so you know he's been working on it for a decent amount of time. But I don't want to make the same mistake I did back in Clarissa Shields, going again and laying chalk with a guy that's got a big knockout upside, however, a big grappling downside. Fireball and popcorn for me, folks. Complete stay away. James, are you betting this fight or touching it at all? We have 37% in the battery life, so we got to hustle after this.
All right. Well, I'll keep it short and sweet then. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm going to play it, but I do think that it's a decent fight for Alex Pereira. Look, I think he's a very, very good fighter. He's obviously an amazing kickboxer. His last knockout went viral. It was one of the scariest knockouts I've ever seen. I did a tweet about it earlier today or yesterday. His opponent was on the canvas for 7 minutes, not moving, for 7 minutes, and then the broadcast cut off. The guy could have been there for 15 minutes. That's unconscious. I think he woke up, but I mean, that's a long time to be out. The knockout was crazy. He's got unbelievable power. I think he's probably going to knock out Andreas Michailidis. Now, obviously, it's a crazy fight because Alex has had like 4 MMA fights, right? He's fought guys with basically only losing records or one-on-one fighters, and now he's fighting a legit MMA fighter in the UFC who's like 13-7, whatever he is, I don't know. So it's obviously a dodgy fight, but from what I can see, he's leveled up since his earlier MMA fights, which I watched, which were in 2016. I think his base is extremely heavy, meaning that I don't think it's going to be easy to take this guy down. I think he's got a really good center of gravity, really good balance, really good hips. He's been training with Glover Teixeira, best fighter in the world to train with if you want to train takedown defense, one of the best fighters. So, yeah, I think Pereira is going to stuff any takedowns, and I think he's going to knock out Michailidis on the feet.
Okay. Glad we agree on that. Shout out to John Stergarian from the club and sub. I know he's going to back the dog in this one. And like I said, more power to you, buddy. I can't blame you, but I also can't get there myself. For those of you telling me to just plug my laptop in, boys and girls, I have to order a new charger cord. I don't know what happened. Something broke. So unfortunately, I can't just plug it in to keep the show going. I wish I could.
If only you thought of that, right? If only.
Yeah, no, I never thought to just go get the damn cord. Frankie Edgar taking on Marlon Chito Vera, future Hall of Famer Frankie Edgar, coming in here as an underdog to the hype train since he derailed the other hype train, Marlon Chito Vera. Frankie currently sitting at about plus 140, plus 145. You can get Marlon at minus 165, minus 170. And what we've got is a clashing of styles here, right? Frankie's 40 years old, so we got to have a damn good reason if we want to back the man. Rules of the show. And he just likes to wrestle, man. Legendary heart. That legendary durability is starting to show a little bit of cracks in the armor here, coming off of a bad death knockout, flying knee from Corey Sandhagen. But what Frankie does is constant pressure, constant movement. He's hard to hit, and he likes to close the distance, grab a leg, take you down, and then big brother you from top position. Marlon Vera, this guy is massive for the weight class. Big power, but he's kind of low volume. Like, he kind of does one big shot at a time. And what we've seen from him is he is dangerous with his submission game from top position, but he doesn't have much to operate with off of his back. James, this is one of those spots where keeping it short and sweet, Marlon Vera, if he gets off, can absolutely crack Frankie Edgar. I'm afraid that's going to happen on Saturday. I don't really want to see Frankie Edgar flat on the canvas again from a fan's perspective. But if Frankie Edgar is successful using his speed, his movement, his head movement, gets in on takedowns, I think he can basically out-wrestle Marlon Vera in a 15-minute fight where the kid won't have much answer from his back. I'm very tempted to take a dog shot on Frankie Edgar here at plus 145. How do you see this fight playing?
Yeah, look, don't hate the dog shot at all. Frankie's lucky it's not a 25-minute fight because I'd be all over Marlon Vera there. I think Marlon Vera is going to come on late in this fight. I'm pretty confident Marlon Vera is going to win the third round. And I'm decently confident Frankie Edgar is going to win the first round. We know Marlon Vera, Cheeto, he's always slow in that first round, right? He gives away that first round a hell of a lot of times. Frankie Edgar is often pretty good in that first round. He'll be moving on his toes. It's hard to get a beat on his movement. He'll throw leg kicks, big overhands. He'll fake the wrestling. He'll go for the wrestling. Frankie Edgar took that first round off Max Holloway, if I'm not mistaken, on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. So I think Frankie Edgar can get the first round here. I think Marlon's probably going to be coming on heavy in that third. So in my opinion, just keeping it short and sweet, there's a lot more layers to it. By keeping it short and sweet, it kind of comes down to the second round. And man, I think Frankie could get the wrestling going and squeak that second round. So I think Frankie can squeak something in this fight. Obviously, the worry is Marlon coming on late and stopping him late or just doing so much damage that, it's a 10-8 or something like that. Or he comes on after the 7-minute mark and dominates the end of that second round and then the third round, so he wins the 29-28. But honestly, I think that it is going to be fairly close at times, and I think Frankie's going to at least win 1 of the 3 rounds. So at plus 140, I don't hate it. I will just say again, to make that plus 140 better, Frankie Edgar's not finishing Marlon Vera.
I was going to ask.
Finishing Marlon Vera. He's not.
I was going to ask you that.
He's not finishing Marlon Vera for the first time in his career. He's not doing it. So if you want to bet Frankie Edgar, just go Frankie Edgar via decision. You know what? I say that Marlon Vera is going to snap his ankle or something. Hopefully not. But look, I think it's highly unlikely Frankie Edgar is going to finish Marlon Vera. When you're playing these props, you always have to be, a bit worried, a bit wary because anything can happen in MMA. But I think Frankie can squeak something out, and to make the plus 150 better by decision, plus 250, whatever it will be, I don't know. I think that's the way to go.
Okay. Man, I don't know if I can get to the window with that one. I am thinking about it. I am tempted to bet on Frankie Edgar, but seeing what Chito Vera did against my guy Grant in his last fight, I did fade him there. I did back Grant there. Davey Grant's my boy. I'll go to war with him any day. But him turning it up late in that third round, that has me terrified. Because if he's not tired and if Frankie can't keep the grappling going that third round for Chito, that could be a problem for Frankie. Especially in his current form. All right, here we go, folks. Shane Burgos taking on Billy Q. This is, man, and I can't even say that this is the violence main event of the evening because we've still got a crazier fight coming up next. But I cannot wait to see these two guys go to war. And this is one of those tough ones for me because I love backing both of these fighters. This is a spot where I like to bet on two guys and now they're fighting each other. So it makes it a little bit harder for me to lean towards backing one or the other. Now, Shane Burgos, he's the volume king. He just went back-to-back with Barboza and Emmett and had absolute wars with both of them. The big concern for me, though, is the way his body shut off against Edson Barboza. That was that freaky anime Frieza getting sliced in half moment where he didn't know he was dead until about 5 seconds later and then just fell over randomly because his body told him that he had had enough. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how you come back from that. He's been legendarily durable and just able to go to war with people time and time again. Is that the kind of thing that catches up to you? That's a big question that I have when looking at backing Shane Burgos here. But he's got an 89% takedown defense. He averages 7.29 significant strikes per minute, absorbing 6.11. So even though he gets hit a lot, he is still out-voluming his opponents by a full significant strike per minute. Like I said, 5-inch reach advantage here in this spot. Billy Q, a guy that just got me that round 3 sprinkle win over Gabriel Benitez. That felt good. Coming in here, a guy I really like to back, a guy I think has a lot of upside, manages the range extremely well, light on his feet, mixes in flying knees, big right hand. He's got excellent shot selection when it comes to how he attacks his opponents. And you know what? He's another guy I really love the round 3 sprinkle on because he just kind of pieces you apart over the course of the fight. He averages 7.08 significant strikes per minute, absorbing 4.33, so almost as much volume as Shane, except he's outlanding his opponents by like 2.7 significant strikes per minute. Much more efficient striker on the feet. You've got Shane Burgos as a minus 200 favorite right now in this spot, and you're getting plus 170 on Billy Q. I am so tempted to go back to the well with Billy Q here, lucrative, but there is that voice in the back of my head just telling me that Shane Burgos is just a little bit better everywhere and that he is justified as a minus 200 favorite. If I'm backing Billy Q here, eating that 5-inch reach advantage, it's mostly a question on, is Shane Burgos really ready to come back 5 months after his body got shut off by his previous opponent? Talk to me about this one, James. Give me a little bit of help, man, because I need some direction.
Yeah, so just first of all, off the bat, I'm not really persuaded by any money lines here, so I probably won't have any money invested, at least on a money line perspective. You know, I think Burgos is the rightful favorite because what he does best is he lives in that hell. He lives in that chaos, right? He loves that, which is what Billy Q uses to win fights. So I think Billy Q's path to victory in all of his fights, I don't think that's going to be a very successful path to victory here. If Billy Q puts the pace, puts the pressure on and tries to break Shane Burgos, I don't see Shane Burgos breaking. You know, it was obviously because Barboza landed, you know, the hellacious strikes. Billy Q isn't that guy. Billy Q lands knees, short elbows, straights. Like, he's not a Barboza striker, right? So I think that, look, Billy Q's definitely going to make this close at times because Burgos will fight close. You know, Burgos won a split decision over Cub Swanson. Burgos, a lot of times, you know, it's not going to, I don't think Burgos is going to blow Billy Q away. The way I see Burgos blowing Billy Q away is if the body shots, which I think are going to be a big thing for Shane Burgos in this fight, if the body shots really, really start to add up. We saw in the Gavin Tucker fight that they kind of did add up for Gavin Tucker there. But the thing about Gavin Tucker against Billy Q, he was able to go to the wrestling, go to the takedowns whenever he wanted to stop that Billy Q forward pressure. Shane Burgos is not going to be able to do that. So he's not going to be able to stop the pressure. So I do see the margins being close at times in this fight. For me, it's really just, will the heavy shots that will land on the Burgos side, will they deter Billy Q or will they hurt Billy Q enough to clearly win the fight on the judges' scorecards? Because if he can't clearly separate himself with the heavy shots, then this fight's going to be close because the volume's going to be close. The the pressure is going to be close. Whoever's like leading the dance, that's going to be close. I think they're going to be going back and forth. So I think everything's going to be close in this fight, apart from the fact that, which is yet to be seen, maybe the Burgos power is going to be the winner in this fight. So it's hard for me to say whether the Burgos power is going to affect Billy Q as much or whether, you know, Billy Q will kind of seem to eat it as he does in every other fight. It's really hard for me to say that. I do think that Burgos is going to be able to win on the optics with the heavier shots, with the body shots, stuff like that. So I do think Burgos is the rightful favorite, but I think the line's fairly accurate. You know, I'm not surprised if either fighter wins a close decision, to be honest. Nothing in the props or the money lines is persuading me to play this fight, honestly. It's a big pass, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Okay. I'm glad you have that opinion because that's kind of where I'm sitting. Over would maybe be the only look that I had. Fight goes the distance, but both guys are dangerous, so you're kind of playing with fire if you pull that one. All right, folks, here we go. We've got 26% battery life, and we are talking the final 3 fights. We've made it. We're going to survive the podcast. Justin Gaethje taking on Michael Chandler, and I can't wait for this one. This is the Violence Weight Championship of the world here for UFC 268. Justin Gaethje, the man with the meanest leg kicks in the business, coming back, finally making his long-awaited return. Michael Chandler coming off of just losing his opportunity at UFC Gold. Michael Chandler is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this fight, and we know both of these guys absolutely bring the war, man. This is going to be a car crash. Justin Gaethje likes to move, cut angles, stay on the outside, hammer with those leg kicks, come in, get in boxing range, go to work with his hands, and somehow after all the damage he's taken, he is stupid durable. Like, if you're willing to bet on your chin and your hands, you're just going to lose that gamble against Justin Gaethje unless your name's Dustin Poirier. Michael Chandler, I'm not sure if he's going to be willing to engage in that kind of a fight or not. He's got that wrestling in his back pocket. We saw that was kind of the downturn for Justin Gaethje, but Khabib was the man on the other side of the cage that night. So I'm not sure that Michael Chandler is going to have the success that Khabib has. And honestly, Chandler's another one of these wrestler turned strikers. We haven't really seen him go to his grappling in a very long time. Man, my heart tells me that Justin Gaethje is going to catch Chandler later in this fight. I think those leg kicks are going to be the difference maker. I think he'll be able to chop at the legs if Chandler goes for the takedowns. Justin Gaethje gets back up and continues to go to work on him until eventually he gets him out of there, maybe late, maybe even gets to a decision where it's a volume-based fight. But I can't count out Michael Chandler. I was one of the ones that backed him against Charles Oliveira in his last fight, so it'd be just classic me to flip sides, lay minus 200 on Justin Gaethje, and then Chandler to come out here and wrestle his way to a 15-minute decision victory. I'm having a hard time with this one. I feel like the fight is probably closer than the line suggests, but my heart says Gaethje. How you playing this one?
Yeah, I think Gaethje's going to break Chandler, honestly. Obviously, okay. Chandler's always live for that early knockout. Gaethje is always live to be knocked out because the way he fights, he walks forward. He is definitely hittable. So I do think that Chandler is, live to knock out anybody. But I can't really get the thought out of my head that Michael Chandler is probably going to get broken down by Gaethje here. The leg kicks are going to be heavy. He's going to be walking forward constantly. Even if Chandler, I can see Chandler getting takedowns out of desperation, Gaethje making him work, get back up to his feet, land heavy body shots. There's not much more to say about this one, man. If we had 2 hours to talk, I could probably do it. But short and sweet, I think Gaethje is going to break Michael Chandler here.
Would Gaethje, now given the price tag, is Gaethje at all someone that you'd consider safe or usable in a parlay for the people, or is this something you want to have a straight shot on?
What's he sitting at right now?
He's about minus 200.
Minus 200. Yeah. No, I definitely won't parlay him. No way. I mean, just because, I don't know, there's a lot of different ways you can play parlays, right? There's a lot of different schools of thoughts out there. But I like to save the parlays for the fighters that I think have a better shot at Gaethje, put it that way. With Gaethje, it's very risky just because he's fighting Michael Chandler, who hits super heavy. So I don't really like to play that game because I can see him getting caught at some point. When I'm playing parlays, as I said, I'd much rather put someone like Garry in because I just don't really see any path to victory for his opponent. Whereas I do see a pretty big path to victory for Michael Chandler here. So now I wouldn't be parlaying him. Straight bet, I would be more likely to do it. But probably inside the distance is the best way to go, to be honest.
Okay. All right. For all the people out there listening, Justin Gaethje is very tempting at that minus 200 price tag. Be careful with your parlays this weekend. Co-main event time, folks. We've got Rose Namajunas taking on Weili Zhang. This is the rematch, the one that, I was going to say everyone's been waiting for, but I think there's a lot of people out there that don't want to see it, considering how it ended the last time. Rose Namajunas has been someone who's been climbing the mountain. She's been knocked down a couple times and just fights her way back up to the top. Weili Zhang has taken that camp out to fight ready. And you know how I feel about Fight Ready. It's my all-time favorite gym. I think you're going to just see massive improvements from her. She'll show up in the best shape of her life. How they pull that off with every single fighter under their banner, I'll leave that for somebody else to argue for. But she's sharpening her iron with guys like Henry Cejudo and Davison Figueiredo. I think we're going to see a big-time improvement from Weili Zhang, and I'm getting all right, we might die soon here, man. You take over. I'm probably going to look more towards the Weili Zhang side. I think this fight is a pick'em for a reason. It was a pick'em last time. The first fight ended up being a
Okay, guys, I think that means Clint is on his way out, so I guess I'll take over. This is the lucrative, hard MMA podcast now. So let me just crack on about Weili Zhang and Rose Namajunas. This is obviously a rematch where I don't think anybody thought what happened in the last fight was going to happen. Rose Namajunas starches her in a minute and 30 seconds or whatever it was. I thought it was going to be a back and forth fight, and I thought the fight would go late. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I had a bet on Weili Zhang in round 4 and round 5 because I thought, if it does get that late, she could potentially break Rose Namajunas down. We've seen Rose not break before, but we've seen her wilt in certain fights. Even in the Jessica Andrade fight, the rematch in that 3rd round, I'm not going to say she wilted, but there was a points in that 3rd round where I thought Jessica Andrade might get the stoppage here. So, look, this is such an intriguing fight for me because I don't think it's going to end early like it did in the 1st round. I honestly think that if these girls fight 100 times, that 1st round knockout for Rose Namajunas happens less than 10 times. I really do. I think it was just meant to be on the night the Rose Namajunas knocked her out. I really didn't think that would happen. And I don't think it's going to happen this time. I think this fight's going to go later. I honestly think this fight's probably going to go to decision. And at the moment, if we're talking about odds, goes to decision is like a pick'em -110. So I don't think that's a bad bet. And I might end up on that myself. The only thing keeping me off is kind of like my read on the first fight. I could see Weili Zhang breaking Rose Namajunas down late. But Rose she's such a good fighter. When she fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk in that 5-round decision, she clearly won that fight. Whereas when Weili Zhang fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk, that was a split decision. And honestly, I think I scored that fight for Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but it could have gone either way. It was a very close fight. So this is a hard one for me, man. I think Weili Zhang is going to need to use the leg kicks in this fight to take away the movement of Rose. Because we even saw in that 1st round of their fight, the first iteration of the fight, that Weili Zhang was investing heavily into the legs. And I think she knew to do that because she knows how good Rose is when she gets on her bike. So I just think I think we're going to get a close fight here. I really don't think it's going to be... And here we go, Clint. Clint is back. I'm just taking over, as you can see. And I'll just finish it off quickly. Somehow Clint has revived his laptop, or maybe it's on his phone. But yeah, just to finish it, I think Weili Zhang's going to have to invest into the leg kicks here. I think she knows that. And if she can take away the movement of Rose Namajunas, I really do think she can come on later in the fight. I don't have a lean myself, honestly. I'd love to tell you who I'm picking for this fight. I think it's -110 for a reason. I think Rose is special, but I think Weili Zhang is a very, very tough fighter. And honestly, if it gets late, I think Weili probably is going to win them last round. So I'm just going to leave you with -110. Fight goes to decision with a late sprinkle on Zhang in round 4 and 5. I think that's the way to go on a betting perspective. But even if I'm not on the goes to decision, I'll probably just sit back, have some popcorn, have a fireball, in the words of Clint, and enjoy the fight.
I'm glad you kept on rolling, my guy. Thank you so much for holding down the fort there. Laptop by KO, as I saw in the chat, was about the best thing I think I've ever seen. I went from 20% to 0% in 30 seconds, man. I was like, we got time. We're going to make it. And then it was done. So this is my... Style. Yeah, Shane Burgos style. This is a backup laptop that obviously does not have the fancy camera attached to it. So I apologize for the drop in quality for anybody, but hey, we can finish the show. All right, man, I'm glad to hear you at least kind of lean with me there on the Zhang side. Like I said before I got cut off, I'm not sure if I got caught on there or not, but I think this line is a pick'em for a reason. I think this line is very, very close. And with Rose coming in after a big knockout the way that she did, you'd expect her to be -250. You'd expect her to be -180 coming in after the show that she put on last time. That tells me that the bookmakers are realizing that I don't want to necessarily call it a fluke, because Rose is obviously skilled enough to pull off the kind of combo that she did, but it was not an anticipated finish, and they don't see it happening that way again. They think the fight could play out very closely this time around. So I tend to agree. I'm still on the Zhang gang side of things, and especially with her going to fight ready, I'm expecting those improvements. Very close fight, probably better spots on the card, but I might bite on the Zhang side of things, and I think the over is probably a really good look. There's a lot of these fights, I've talked about it before, where no two fights are the same. And because the last one ended so early, I think people are going to expect that again here. If you look back at the Joanna fight with Rose Namajunas, they had a very similar track record. Rose came in, clipped her early, knocked her out fast. She made adjustments in the next fight, and then they went to war in the next fight, went a full 25 minutes. So I'm kind of expecting the same thing here. I think this is going to be a close back and forth fight, and I think the overs are the way to go.
And the Andrade fight, right? Rose Namajunas gets knocked out by Andrade in the first round, and then when they have the rematch, they go all 3 rounds. So yeah, no 2 fights are the same, like you said. And I think the same thing could happen here for the 3rd time in Rose's career.
Absolutely. I love it, man. I'm glad we kind of see eye to eye on that one, because I think the fight going over makes a lot of sense. And I think sprinkling those late rounds for either fighter, whichever side that you like, maybe sprinkling the 4 and 5 is kind of the way to go here. We saw how like lumped up Joanna got in in the late rounds of her fight, somehow managed to survive it. I got to think these two are maybe capable of putting a stamp on it late, but yeah, who knows? I'm going to have to look that up. Sorry, guys. I'm still trying to get up and running here. Different computer. None of my stuff is in the right place. Not prepped here for this, but let's talk about the main event. Unfortunately, like I said, nothing's ready to go over here, so I can't bring it up for you. We've got the bigger rematch here. Colby Chaos Covington taking on Kamaru Usman. And this is one hell of a fight, man. The first fight, everyone needs to just chill out, go back, rewatch that first fight. First off, it was epic. One of the best fights we have ever seen. Back and forth, high pace, so much fun. Such a good fight. I cannot believe it took the UFC this long to get this rematch booked, because in my opinion, this is the clear number 1 and number 2 fighters in the division. I don't know what the holdup was. I know there's a lot of politics right now at 170, and we're all just waiting for Khamzat to take over and take his place rightfully at the top of the division. But this one needed to happen. I think this fight is going to play out close, man. Much similar to how I talked about the last fight. No 2 fights are alike. We saw them go to war last time. It will not surprise me if this one finishes early with both guys taking time off, making adjustments. You're going to hear over and over and over again on other people's podcasts how much Kamaru has improved, how much better Kamaru has gotten. We all know that. We've all seen it. He's shown us new levels every single time he stepped into the UFC. But realistically, man, he has been fighting lightweights who are moving up to 170. If you look at all the guys he's been taking on recently, while they're skilled fighters, he's been taking on smaller fighters who have moved up to 170. Colby Covington is a real 170-pound fighter, and he has been in the lab for 2 straight years, doing nothing but train for his opportunity to rematch Kamaru Usman. So everyone's going to talk about how good Usman has gotten. No one's going to talk about the fact that we should expect massive improvements from Colby Covington. Just because we haven't seen them doesn't mean they aren't there. I took the dog shot, man. I got Colby Covington at plus 250, just 1 unit. I'm going to go ahead and take that shot, thinking that this fight plays out a lot closer than people expect. I know Kamaru Usman might be the all-time GOAT at 170. Maybe he is. But Colby gave him the best run for his money that we have ever seen. It was either 2-2 going into round 5, or it was 3-1 Colby going into round 5. So I'm more than willing to take the dog shot on the one guy besides Khamzat that I think maybe has a chance to dethrone Kamaru Usman. Talk to me, man.
Amazing fight, man. I actually watched it earlier. Such a good fight.
So fun.
If you come out of that fight thinking that there's no value on Colby at plus 250, then you don't know what you're talking about, right? Because it was a very close fight. But there's more layers to it than that, in my opinion, because I feel that Colby had one of the best performances of his life, just in terms of against Kamaru Usman. I don't see much that he can change in his game. I don't see many adjustments that he can make to do any better than they did in that fight. But I do see a few adjustments on the Usman side that Usman can make, notably go into the body a lot more. If he makes a few of those adjustments in the boxing, I believe that he can win the fight a lot more clearly. So that's just really what's keeping me off, because I kind of want to bet Colby at plus 250, but honestly, I don't really see the adjustments he can make to do anything. But you could say, well, he doesn't need to make any adjustments. It was a close fight. And if that same fight happens again, he could win this time. which is true. But I can see the adjustments that Kamaru can make. And if he does make them adjustments, I think he's going to win it way more clearly than he did in the first fight. And I think he can knock him out earlier. At the end of the day, he did knock Colby out in the 5th round. It was a KO win. And he broke his jaw in the 3rd round. And I will say shout out to Colby because he broke his jaw at the end of the 3rd round, the last shot of the 3rd round. And Colby come back and won the 4th round, had an amazing 4th round. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy. It just shows you the toughness and the durability of Colby Covington. But yeah, honestly, I think Kamaru Usman finishes him earlier this time. I think he gets a 3rd or 4th round stoppage.
Okay. And that leads me to my next question, man. I was actually teeing this one to ask you because very similarly to how we talked about Rose and Weili, no two fights are alike. These two men went to war the last time we saw it. It was on pace to go the distance. And I think had Colby not broken his jaw, we probably would have seen the judges there in the 5th round. I kind of have a feeling that this one goes under. Regardless of who finishes it, I know Colby is not known for being a finisher, but again, we're expecting probably big improvements and adjustments. We've seen the improvements and adjustments from Kamaru Usman. I know you said you wouldn't be surprised if he finishes him earlier. Looks like the total set to 3.5 right now, and the over is getting pounded. You can get kind of a pick'em price tag at the 4.5 if you have the alternate total, or you can just take the fight doesn't go the distance at -120 in some spots. I'm looking at taking Colby Covington +150 for my 1-unit shot based on the value, and then making potentially a bigger bet on the under or the fight doesn't go the distance and looking for some violence here in the main event, man. How would you feel about that kind of a double setup?
I might be on that bet with you, honestly. I do actually kind of like that. I'm saying that I think Kamaru can make certain adjustments that I saw on tape and knock Colby out. And I think Kamaru by KO, not even inside the distance, is like +140, +150. So if you're giving me a pick'em for the under, I'd much rather go with that than Kamaru. The difference is not that much. And honestly, Colby had Kamaru like a little bit wobbly, like multiple times in that fight. There was like 3 separate times in like 3 separate rounds that Kamaru looked a little bit shaky. Now, I don't think it was too much to write home about. Like it was a very short amount of time. He instantly was fine after that. But at the end of the day, we did see him like wobbled, right? In the Gilbert Burns fight, he got dropped. He got hit with that heavy shot in the first round. I don't think he's invincible to getting finished. Colby is not a finisher, but just seeing the way those guys fought in that first fight, I think finishes are going to potentially manifest, on either side, because if they do anything like they did in the first fight, just go back and forth toe-to-toe, which I think they probably will. I honestly don't think anyone is particularly going to want to go to the wrestling. Maybe they do. It's hard to say, right? But I think Colby's going to feel like he can win on the feet because he was winning on the feet. And I think Kamaru Usman's going to definitely feel like he can win on the feet and feel like he can knock out Colby earlier, especially coming after knockouts, coming from knockouts over Jorge Masvidal and Gilbert Burns. He's going to have a lot of confidence in his hands, right? So I think he's definitely going to want to stand and bang. And honestly, I think Colby is probably going to be confident in his skills as well because, he was outpointing Kamaru and he was looking good on the feet. So I think we're going to get a similar fight in terms of the way it plays out. And that will definitely lend itself to a finish on either side. I am predicting Kamaru to get the finish. But as I said, the under is not a bad shot. And honestly, man, I probably will be on that bet. I probably will be sending it out to my members in a few minutes when we finish this podcast.
All right. Glad to hear it. Got some gold there for free here on the Die Hard MMA podcast, everybody. Hey, we got 300 live viewers. If you haven't already, do me a favor and hit the like button here. My guy Lucrative, like I've said before, one of the sharpest guys in the MMA gambling space. So make sure you show him some appreciation for giving out some free gold to us here on the show. Give him a follow over on Twitter. Man, sorry for the technical difficulties. I do apologize. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I wish we had a little bit more of a relaxed show because it's always fun to break down these fights and talk with you. I apologize, but I really appreciate you taking the time, man. If you would like to let the people know where they can find you, shout out anything, got any sponsors, whatever, floor's yours, man. Go right ahead.
Yeah, man, look, I've had a great time, me, man. I usually like to talk a lot, like go in depth on the philosophy behind my betting, talk about.
We could have gone 3 hours tonight.
all of that boring stuff. But look, I think we broke it down pretty solidly. just looking over some of the bets that we spoke about, I think the over 1.5 in the Gian Villante fight is a solid bet at -150. I think, we spoke about the under. I'm not super confident in the main event under, but that's still a decent bet. Frankie Edgar could squeak out a decision there. That might be a decent bet you want to have. I think we both like Ode Osbourne. So there's a few bets there for Guy. I kind of like Alex Pereira inside the distance. So just some free nuggets for everybody in the chat there. Everybody knows where to find me, man. Lucrative MMA, that's my Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. I have a handicapping service where if you want to get all of my official picks for all of the fights, you can go to lucrativemmabetting.com or just go to website to see my results. At the moment, we're up 126 units for 2021. So I'm hoping to break that one. I'm hoping to get 125 units, but 150 units by the end of the year. But it might be a bit tricky because, we're running out of time. But that's it, really. One thing I will say, and this is to you as well, Clint, Contender Series tomorrow, Justin Burlinson is fighting out of the UK. Everybody tune in for Justin Burlinson. Go and follow him on Instagram now. Go and follow him on Twitter because he's a solid fighter coming out of Cage Warriors. He's fought on Bellator before, and I think he's going to win tomorrow. So just quick shout out to him because I think he's a solid prospect coming from the UK, and he's soon going to be a UFC fighter. So jump on that train before he becomes one. But yeah, man, really appreciate you having me on. And hopefully we can do this again sometime, man. And good luck on your bets.
Thank you very much for the tip, man. I haven't gotten into the Dana White Contender Series just yet, so I will definitely look out for Justin over there. Definitely appreciate it, man. Thank you for recapping the picks. Everybody in the chat, you have no idea. You've just been blessed and treated. I am knocking on the door of 25 units profit in 2021 myself, so you being all the way up at that 100-unit mark for the year, man, just a ridiculous achievement. Congratulations on that, and to all your backers, of course. Thank you, everybody, for rolling with the punches tonight on this ridiculous show that we had this evening. Appreciate each and every one of you. As you all know, I always like to try to end everything on kind of a positive note, give you something to hang on to going into the week. Times are tough out there. Everyone's struggling. Today is November 1st, and what that means is you're officially allowed to listen to Christmas music. Turn up Mariah Carey. Put the freaking pumpkins away. It's Christmas season. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. They're Grinches, every single one of them. You go out there and you have a great week. Kick some ass. As always, we're going to have free content on Pub Sports Radio the whole week. I'll be back for the Total Takedown and the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In show on Friday. Check out my official picks and bets. I tweet them out every single week. That's where you'll find them. James, thank you again, my friend. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, my man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Let's roll.